Hey, what's up, guys? We have Jason Stein here. He is a host of Dads from the Crypt. We're going to talk about horror movies. So, how you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm good. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I host the Dads from the Crypt podcast and YouTube channel. We started off as a Tales from the Crypt, the 90s HBO anthology TV show based on the banned comic books from the 50s. So we started off reviewing each episode of that show and talking to directors, producers, actors, people who worked on the show essentially. And that was 90 plus episodes worth. And eventually we ran out of episodes, so now we do other anthology shows such as Black Mirror and Twilight Zone and Creepshow. And we also just kind of do like movie series just for fun. So we did like a shark series all summer for Jaws 50th anniversary. We did all the Jaws movies and some other fun shark movies. And now kind of doing the 80s slasher movies series Sleepaway Camp. It was very fun, very campy, very 80s. We're having a great time with that. So yeah, we also talk about dad stuff. Me and my other two co-hosts were spooky dads. And we try to spread positivity and good vibes and spooky stuff.
Okay, cool. Was the Tales from the Crypt banned in the 50s, you said? I didn't know that.
So Tales from the Crypt is based on a comic book series by publisher EC Comics. And there's actually three they have a whole bunch of comics: Tales from the Crypt, Vaults of Horror. They have like a war series. So they had all these different lines of series that were all kind of like pushing boundaries, and they had a lot of gore. I mean, not even that much gore, especially compared to today, but like darker themes and societal themes. They had like sci-fi stuff, kind of precursor to like Star Trek of using sci-fi for social messaging, etc. But eventually they were shut down by the government. They brought in for hearings and everything for being detrimental to the youth of America. And then they eventually had to shut down, and they actually reformed as Mad Magazine, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. I guess that
Yeah,
just shows how far we've come from the 50s with what we can show. Because I mean, now it's gotten like pretty crazy compared to Tales from the Crypt, or at least what I've seen from Tales from the Crypt. Maybe it was more crazy in the comics or something. I don't know, but
no. A lot of the comic books, was all set up, in the last panel would have like a gory image as like the shocker, and that was kind of it. But these were very popular with kids, and as we've seen, with metal music, with video games, with all kinds of art form that can touch our youth. They're always looking for something to blame the kids' behavior on, other than other things, the internal things rather than the external.
yeah, like you do wonder how much the movies kind of actually do affect people. Like I genuinely think that it doesn't that much, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe you wonder if the crazier the movies get, the crazier society gets. If there's any like parallel to that.
I think I think it's a mirror looking at itself. I think the mirrors are a reflection of society, and they reflect back and forth. So
Yeah, yeah, I
hard to
pretty
say what.
much agree with that. And then except you shouldn't let allow kids to watch certain things, like make sure kids stay away from certain things. Otherwise, if it's adults, then they should be able to handle it or choose what they watch. Yeah,
And
so my
I'm not one to say that your kids shouldn't watch X, Y, Z. I think it's the parents that make that decision.
yeah, exactly, it's up to the individual
The
parent.
parents should know their kids and what they're into, what they're not into, what their boundary is. And I've definitely shown my kids things, and they said that we don't like this. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to push it. Um,
Yeah,
so kind of letting them kind of tell you and follow their cues.
do you think there is a line though? I mean, where like just all kids should not watch
I
certain
mean,
things, you know what I mean, depending on
you shouldn't
age
be
and
showing your kids Serbian film. Let's put it that way. Or, but again, I don't know what kid would want to watch that per se.
I don't even know what Serbian film is. Is
Okay,
that
then
kind of like
you don't want to know then.
it's real kind of extreme, like I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Cannibal Holocaust, or Texas Chainsaw, those kind of things. Like, but I mean, it's interesting because, well, my co-host Mondo, he's very into the Nightmare on Elm Street series, like most horror fans, and he actually, when he thought his daughter was ready, he showed her the behind the scenes pictures and video and footage and stuff. So she could actually see this is all make believe. This is just makeup and this is how they did this and that. And then they watched it and she loved it. So, there's definitely ways to introduce and preface your kids. I showed my, when my oldest was 13, we watched The Thing and he liked it. But then once we got to the dog and the kennel scene, that was too much for him. He's like, I don't like this. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna force you to watch something you don't like or is disturbing to you, and we turned it off.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to a girl like a while ago, like I this girl that I was dating, I told her I was into horror movies or whatever, and like she was into like real extreme ones, and it was
Yeah.
from what I remember, she like mentioned that there was like rape scenes and stuff, and like I didn't really ask more, but it was like it almost seemed like as if it was like kind of like realistic, and I'm like, wow, that's definitely going too far for me. I don't know if you've heard of anything like that where it's like is that like
Yeah.
kind of like what the Serbian stuff is? Like kind of like more just
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I watched definitely just about as much extreme stuff as there is. And I'll never say that there's with any art, I wouldn't say that this shouldn't exist as long as everyone's a willing participant and is handled, made in a responsible manner. It's more for the audience to decide if they want to subject themselves to that as long as they're quote informed. Um and well, I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, my point is that we need extreme art. I think that's a part of a free society.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that I would probably cross the line on anything that's say illegal, like rape, or I mean, and I actually mean actual. I mean, I don't know how realistic it was. Like I've heard things like I think one of the movies was I'm forgetting the guy's name, but I think he had like Christina Ricci or something like kind of like give him like a blow job or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was I'm forgetting
I'm
the
not
guy's name.
I'm not
Uh,
familiar. I'd be surprised, especially for her, if she would be in anything that was unsimulated.
Yeah, like I wish I knew what I was talking about and I could look it up, but it would take time.
I
The
mean,
director, Vincent Gallo, I think is who it was. I don't even know if it was. He's more of like an indie director. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I have to look it up. I don't know off top the
Yeah, so supposedly he was doing stuff. And like I said, I don't really know enough about it to say that like one thing for sure happened, but he was supposedly doing stuff where they wanted it to be so realistic that they actually did it. And so anytime where you're doing something like obviously like a rape or like a murder or any type of like pain, I would say that you definitely shouldn't actually do it.
well, yes. You
Yeah.
shouldn't
Yeah.
actually murder. I mean,
I mean, you
um,
could argue if both people consent to it, I guess, but I mean, I don't know. It gets tricky, but
yeah.
it's kind of a weird subject. So, my fiance is into Tales from the Crypt, all this type. We
Mhm.
just saw The Conjuring last night.
Okay.
She's very into Halloween and all things horror movies. I kind of got more into the horror movies with avant-garde. Or I wouldn't call it avant-garde, but like I guess you call it like high cinema or something. I don't even really know what to call it, but better
Yeah, you can go art house. Some people call
art
it fart.
house.
Some people call it fart house. It can be a little navel gazing, a little pretentious, but
But I mean, even the ones that I'm watching, I definitely wouldn't say are too navel gazely or pretentious. Like just Hereditary,
right,
Midsommar, The Witch, anything pretty much Robert Eggers, Ari Aster.
right.
Are you into that kind of stuff?
Oh
Also,
yeah.
you're into all of it.
I mean, I'll watch anything that I think has some value to it. That especially I know I have my friends and I can listen to what they say or I can I know which critics I kind of trust. Um, so like yeah, I mean I love both Midsommar and Hereditary. I haven't seen this newest Eddington. I definitely didn't see Beau's Afraid. Like those two seem more surrealistic and I'd be okay with that to a degree. The Beau's Afraid one, I think hits a little too close to home for me. Like it seems like more just like someone putting their therapy on screen, which community for some. Others, I don't know if I want to deal with that. The Eddington one, yeah, I do want to watch it, but it's like 3 hours, so it's more like finding a time to commit to that. I really like Eggers. I like Nosferatu a lot. It's just it's hard when it's something that it's a story that you already know, but I love how it's made on the production side and everything. And I loved a lot of the acting. And I should watch it again. So I watched it like, it was very hyped up. So I think now the hype is kind of back down. I should watch that one again. I loved The Lighthouse. I loved The Witch. Northman was pretty good. Again, I liked how it was made, but the story was kind of, typical gladiator revenge type of movie. So the plot didn't do too much for me, but I love what he's making, like in how he makes his stuff. So I have a lot of respect for that. And then what was the other one? The Green Knight, which isn't by Adam, but it's kind of the same wheelhouse. I
The
really
Green
like that
Knight,
one.
yeah. I mean, that one was definitely interesting. I didn't really
Mhm.
fully, I don't think I fully understood the ending of the movie, which I don't really want to give any spoilers, but it's like where he
No,
goes and meets up with like
the Green Knight.
the Green Knight, which I guess was almost kind of like nature, right? Was my fiance said it had something to do with like kind of like paganism or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
really know if I'm able to explain what happened. I don't know if you are able to.
no.
No.
Well, it goes a lot of mythology that I'm not familiar with, and I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember really enjoying it. I think the one that kind of goes too far, not too far like content wise, but as far as allegory and little pretentiousness was Men. Did you see that one?
No, I wanted to, but I got that vibe. I kind of got a vibe that it wasn't great and it was kind of boring. But I do like that director too, Alex Garland.
I mean, but then he came out with Civil War, which was amazing, and he did Ex Machina and Annihilation. They're all really amazing movies, and I think Man was just a misfire, but he's allowed, and it had some interesting stuff. It definitely had some very crazy imagery. And I saw that one actually as a sneak preview, so I knew even less going into it. Because usually you go in the movie, you hear some of the hype, you've at least maybe seen the trailer or two. So sometimes, if you live in LA, you get invited to like these movie previews, like test screenings and stuff. So you get to go to stuff, especially before the hype comes up and stuff. So like I saw Abigail that way, and that kind of it was kind of cool seeing something without in the more pure in the more pure state of mind.
I
Um,
don't know if I know what Abigail is.
it's those Radio Silence guys. They did whatchamacallit, Ready or Not. It's the ballerina. This group of criminals kidnap a ballerina for ransom, but turns out she's a vampire.
Yeah, I don't think I know those.
Oh, okay, yeah, go. That was really fun. It's a really, really
Yeah.
fun, really well made, really well acted, really funny movie. Surprisingly,
Yeah. And then more recently I just saw Weapons, which was good, and then also
yeah,
28 Years Later, which was also the Alex Garland wrote 28 Years Later with
right.
Danny Boyle directing, as you know, the 28 days later and then 28 months later and now 20 years later. What's funny is I think that most people like probably I would assume like the first one the best. I actually funny enough like the second one, 28 months later the best. We rewatched them before watching the new one. And 28 months later, even though I think the directors are like kind of like unknown at this point. I think there was two of them or something, but that I thought was probably the best one. What do you think about all three of these so far? And then also maybe even the upcoming one, which is in
Yeah.
January already. Yeah,
So I love the first one. It's probably in my opinion, the scariest quote unquote zombie infected movie. Just on the visceral level. I saw in the theater, probably the scariest I've ever been watching a zombie movie in the movie theater, and it still, I think, is the scariest zombie movie ever made. Other ones might have more dread or like conceptually more intense, but as far as like a visceral, like, oh my god, this zombie's gonna get me movie, that's the one that really takes the cake. I like the second one. I haven't seen it in a while, so I give a grain of salt, but the first one was just so much more not simplistic, but is much more visceral and is much more straightforward. The second one expands upon that on scope and everything, which is fine. But I liked how how what's the word I'm looking for? How the first one just really is just it's an experience, and yeah, and then Bone Temple. It's one of those movies I liked parts of it, other parts didn't quite gel. Again, especially when it's made to be, it's a specifically made to be a sequel, so the ending is just kind of unsatisfying in a way. It could have almost have been 2 movies in this one even. Or I don't know. I'm reserving my ultimate judgment until we see the next one. Um, I'm very happy they did it. I'm very happy they're bucking expectations of what you'd expect from one of these movies. Um, so I'll always rather have audacious filmmaking than boring filmmaking. So even if it's audacious and doesn't quite hit the mark, I'd rather them go for that than do something straight and straightforward.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I mean, if something's boring, it's kind of like no matter how good it is. And there's a lot of those movies out there that are just
Mm.
like they're good movies, but they're just kind of boring. I mean, a lot of Oscar movies are like that. A lot of pretentious movies are like that. But I feel like when it comes to horror, for one, I feel like they're kind of opening. At least I've heard this that they're opening the door more for good directors to make horror. Like I think it's easier to make
Mhm.
a horror because people will actually go and watch it. Like The Conjuring, I think did really well,
Yeah.
and it didn't even get like it wasn't even that great. It's just I think no matter what, like they do well, and like going back to with Ari Aster, I'm kind of surprised that he did two really good horror movies. And then he decided to do Beau is Afraid, which is just batshit crazy. If you haven't seen it, which you said you didn't, it's crazier than you think it is, probably. Like it starts, and he even said himself, it starts to go down this. He actually said he did this on purpose, where he started it off kind of fast moving. And in the beginning, you're kind of like, okay, I'm with this. But then it slows down and kind of gets more and more mundane and just kind of weird and boring
Mm.
as it goes, which is like kind of like the opposite of what he said you wanted to do. And he was doing this to kind of fuck with the audience. He also thinks it's like funny, I guess, the movie,
Right.
which
Yeah. Yeah. From everything I heard, yeah, it's supposed to be much more satirical comedy, but with
yeah.
very messed up, surreal imagery, etc.
But I'm
Just
surprised that he chose to go
yeah.
that direction. And then Eddington is kind of not as weird as Beau is Afraid, but it definitely isn't as good as the first two. So it's kind of like I understand you wanting to do what you want to do, and you kind of like want to fuck with the audience or whatever you want to do. But like I think that can maybe wait until after at least 3 to 5 films. I don't know. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I mean, it's gonna get to a point. I kind of feel like where I mean, A24 will probably never drop him, but like, it's gonna get to a point where you might really lose the audience. I don't know how you feel about that. You don't even see him, but I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely understand it. I mean, it's kind of like Kubrick doing if Kubrick would have done like 2001, like earlier in his career.
which
Um,
2001 maybe at the time was crazy, but wasn't that crazy compared to what Ari Aster
yeah. Well, I'm
did, in
saying
my
as far
opinion.
as where it takes place in Kubrick's career, if he made that before
Yeah, I see what you're saying
or
for
something
sure.
like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Although his early movies are kind of weird. I mean, Clockwork Orange and Lolita are pretty bizarre themselves, right? I
yeah.
mean, I haven't even seen Lolita, but I've heard it's. I mean, I would imagine it's pretty crazy. It's this guy like riding around on a plane with like an underage girl, right?
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, I haven't seen it in a very long time, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit more than that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm also in favor of Ari Aster doing whatever he wants to do, and us as the audience deciding whether or not we want to see that. But I think he still has enough panache in his name to do kind of whatever he wants, and he's working within his budget, so that's fine. Also, another thing that really bugs me is when they give someone too much budget and they like make things a bit they overproduce a movie that doesn't need to be overproduced.
Like, what would be an example of that?
Um, I mean, I kind of almost feel like the whole Bone Temple aspect in the new 20 Days Later was like a bit much. Like, how is this one guy doing all this? Um, and
Yeah.
like,
To their defense, I think their budget was cheap though, right? Because they filmed it with iPhones and stuff.
right. I'm just gonna give an example or of a production element that doesn't quite the production element should serve the story
Yeah.
rather than being something showing off and that doesn't rather than fitting. So some parts of that felt a little bit on that way. I have to think, or like kind of like how Ryan Reynolds said, like for the Deadpool movies, where they like were given a bigger budget, but he actually denied it and wanted to do a smaller budget
Oh
and
wow.
keep them because they want to be able to problem solve and work things through and figure out what works best for what they're trying to accomplish. So I feel like especially sometimes horror sci-fi can go a little bit more for spectacle's sake. Maybe Marvel does this quite a bit, which I guess kind of fits a little bit with that universe, but I'd rather them focus on the story and make those elements fit better. Um, really what I want is every aspect of the movie to serve the story.
Yeah, I agree. Like, isn't that kind of like Chekhov's gun or whatever? Like, whatever is in like the scene or whatever you
Mhm.
want to be able to use. Yeah,
Yeah,
with the 28 years later, it kind of came off a little bit more as fantasy to me than it did as horror. I
yeah,
almost think that it would have been better if like the whole movie was him and his dad out there, maybe like the beginning part, if that just stayed. But like it's when they went back and then he got the mom and went, I was kind of like, this is unrealistic because
yeah,
the mom is totally out of her element and he's just a kid. So I mean,
yeah.
um,
I mean, it's kind of the argument of you should still meet a movie on its own terms where the movie is, but you're also bringing yourself on that journey. So it's like yeah, you have to find the balance between the two because the movie is supposed to be immersive. It's a shared dream, if you want to call it that, between the audience and the filmmakers. So, but in order for that, you need the audience to like be buying into what they're being presented. So you don't want to lose your audience. But again, the audience also has to be willing to go with some things. And it's really the filmmaker's job is to immerse the audience and get them to buy into that. When you see Star Wars, you kind of are blasted, the blasted with the big spaceships and stuff, and you're like, okay, this is all something new and big, but it feels so at least the original stuff feels so tangible that it makes sense. Where some of the sequels, I'd rather have something tangible that might not be as realistic than something digital that's too perfect because your brain just doesn't compute that as real.
yeah. I also heard like Breaking Bad, like they would kind of get themselves into situate like writers or when they were writing, they would like get themselves in the corners that they had to kind of like get themselves out of, and they were able to do it successfully. The only thing that I rewatched Breaking Bad like somewhat recently, and the only thing that I would say, and that's my favorite like of all time, which along with a bunch of people, I'm sure. The only thing that I thought like really kind of went a little bit too far is when he was trying to trick. I'm probably gonna like forget all the details, but he was trying to trick Gus into like going against um Jesse. That whole setup was like got really crazy. I don't know if you remember that at all, but it
I've
was
actually
like,
never seen an episode of Breaking Bad.
oh
I
wow.
know it's one of those things I know I would like it, but the contrarian in me is kind of like, I've been told too many times to watch
Yeah.
it.
I know
Uh,
what you mean, and I kind of would probably normally feel that way, but I think that I kind of got in early because I heard what it was about, and at the time I wasn't really watching too much TV shows, and I just liked what it was about, so I started watching it, and I immediately got on board as soon as I watched the first episode. So I would definitely say it's one of those that is great. I am like you when it comes to something like The Godfather or something. I finally got around to watching that, and I just was not that impressed with The Godfather. I don't know how you
uh,
feel about like The Godfather and even The Sopranos and stuff like that. Like I'm just
I think it
not as
really kind of
into it.
depends. I think for Breaking Bad, it kind of came out at a time where my kids were very young, and I just did not have much time to like spend on that kind of stuff. So you wanted to go something more familiar. I think I saw The Godfather when I was I think I was in middle school, so I was on the much more. It just hit me at the right time. So I do think the first two, especially, are very very good. It's interesting because I'm playing this game, Mafia: The Old Country, which is like the latest in the Mafia video game series. I haven't played the other ones, but they're very Godfather inspired. And this one takes place totally in Sicily. And it's very like open. It looks very open world. Looks like it could be like a Red Dead Redemption style game, but it's very linear, which I kind of like. How it's like just tell me where to go. Just don't. Sometimes I like the games. They do the tutorials and like opening missions, and then like okay, go off, and there's all these like hunting systems and eating and stuff. I'm like, no, I just want to play a game. You So like it looks beautiful. It has all these like open fields and stuff, but there's not really anything there per se. I'm kind of okay with that sometimes.
Yeah, the problem that I have with The Godfather is I mean, I don't know, people just say that it was, for the time, I'm sure it was great, and I think that that was probably what, late '70s or something. I could be wrong. Is that late '70s? Probably
Yeah,
is, right?
yeah, mid 70s.
So it came out right around the same time as like Star Wars, right? Or like Star Wars
Yeah,
was late '70s, yeah.
yeah,
Um, and even Star Wars too. I just feel like those movies are just too boring and slow and like sludgy. And same thing with The Sopranos. Like it was just so. I don't know if you saw The Sopranos, but
yeah. I've watched Sopranos.
and I mean, did you like that one too? I just thought it was kind of
I,
slow and boring. Like it
I
was just
liked it.
kind of
I liked that for the time because it was very character driven, and I don't know, I liked The Sopranos when it came out as part of that. Watching it now, yeah, it's a little bit dated in parts. So again, you have to kind of take things a little bit with when they came out and whatnot.
yeah.
Um,
Did you see Megalopolis? I think that's what it is, right?
no,
Francis
I've
Ford.
definitely
No.
seen the videos about it. It's one of those movies where one night I do want to like take a strong gummy and watch it and just like laugh at stupid shit. But yeah, I've seen and heard enough about it where I feel like I don't need to like sit down with a critical eye and watch it.
Yeah. Part of me wants to, but then that's going to be one of those ones that I know is just going to be like, this is just too weird for me, which is like similar to like David Lynch. I don't know how into David Lynch you are,
I
but
watched
I
a little bit.
mean,
Like I watched Velvet for the first time somewhat recently, and I like it. It's not it gets to the line of like being weird for weird's sake. Um, but I think he toes that line very well, about as good as anyone. And then which like, unfortunately at least the people trying to emulate and they kind of miss the point of that style of being weird enough without being, without losing your audience. And I think that's what he's very good at.
who do you think's doing that now? Or what would be like a current movie that would,
Oh, that's a tough one.
I can't think of too many.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very singular filmmaker. I know, like, you talk about weapons. I think there's some aspects of David Lynch and weapons. Um, so I would go that far, but definitely no one's really quite doing it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, David Lynch is just yeah, it just gets like what's funny is I'm into that weird stuff, but it just goes too far. Like I wasn't able to watch Twin Peaks. Um and I mean really the whole only one I think that I've watched the whole thing is Mulholland Drive, which I did like Mulholland Drive.
Mhm.
And I do, like I said, I do kind of like that weird stuff. I think it's kind of funny, but whenever I've tried to watch any of the other ones, like Blue Velvet, I stopped, and then like Inland Empire or something, and like I just couldn't get too far. It's really almost like too low budget even for me. Or and that's a
Yeah.
problem that I think that I have in general too. When I say The Godfather, it's like when it gets, and I know David Lynch isn't that old, but like when it gets old enough, it just starts to get like too like even with Stanley Kubrick. Like don't get me wrong, like I like I like Stanley Kubrick, but it's like it just gets to a level where like they just didn't have the production value like they do now, you know. And even though that probably shouldn't bother me, it kind of
Well,
does.
I mean, everyone's allowed to. Like, I tried watching Eraserhead, and I couldn't get through it. It was just too. I think with the noise was just like giving me a headache and just like like not disturbing me, like upsetting me, but was just like unnerving on the visceral level, which I know he was intentionally doing. But after a while, I was like, I don't need to be subjecting myself to this. I have the power to turn it off.
What kind of noise are we talking about?
It was like
Like horror
industrial,
noise
I think,
or
because it takes place, if I'm not mistaken, like in the near a factory. So there's just like constant droning of machinery. And I know that I'm sure that's allegorical for blah 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 blah, but like I was just like, yeah, yeah. It was just, and it's very very weird imagery and dream logic. It's very dream logic, and that's fine for a bit, but after a while, I'm just like, I get lost in it. And I think, yeah, the noise, the droning of the machine sounds and whatnot, just got to a point where I'm like, I think I'm okay. Or sometimes I know I'm just not in the mood. Once I start something after like 5, 10 minutes, I'm like, I'm not feeling, I'm just not in the mood for it. And that's okay. I don't have to spend my whole night. Because again, when you're a father, your nights to do those things are fewer and fewer. So, and usually later at night. So you only have so much time and energy to spend on those kind of things. So I kind of budget a little bit for those things.
yeah, that's a big problem with me. Is it's like I mean I don't know if I'd say I have ADHD. I mean I probably do, but like if a movie doesn't catch me pretty quickly or a TV show, like I just kind of get over it. And sometimes I kind of feel like maybe I really should give this a chance. But then sometimes you do give it the chance, especially a TV show, and like you get so far in, like Game of Thrones, honestly,
Mm,
um, like don't get me wrong, like just like Godfather and a lot of Star Wars and a lot of other stuff, like I thought it was really well done, really written, but like I just did not understand half of what was going on throughout
yeah.
like the entire thing, and it was like it just I kept watching it though to try and get to the point
Mhm.
that I wanted to. I don't know how you feel about Game of Thrones, but
Yeah, I came into it somewhere in the middle of when it was coming out, like when the hype finally hit a point, and I benefited from just kind of binging episodes, so I could like try to get through them quicker without. And then I would like could read a guide to explain to me what was kind of what the more detailed stuff was happening. So I was able to kind of go on a journey with it, and I appreciate it a lot. But yeah, that one really crapped the bed in the end.
yeah, well, that's what's funny is like people say that, but then that's another one where I wouldn't necessarily say that I liked it more, but I think they dumbed it down a little bit at the end, like
Well,
which I
but
think that I kind of like
well,
almost appreciated.
what happened was, they're adapting from these books. Eventually, they ran out of books, and so it's one thing to be adapting from a source material. It's another thing to be creating your material as you go. So they kind of shifted how everything was being written, and that was just very, very obvious to me. Where it just like lost the subtlety and the subtext a bit. Um,
Yeah, because I mean I would imagine just couldn't write as well as the actual author, J.R.R.
right.
Tolkien, right? That's the right. I don't know. J.R.R.
No,
Tolkien.
no, it's George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, yeah. J.R.R. Tolkien is
He's Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
Lord of the Rings, yeah. Which it's kind of funny they have like a similar RR thing
yeah.
going on, and their movies or books are the pretty similar. I thought.
Well, yeah, yeah. They're definitely an extension, I think. And both pulling from a lot of the same well of things.
Yeah.
Are you watching Alien Earth?
No. What is that on?
That's
Is it
on Hulu.
FX? Hulu. Okay, it's FX, right? Isn't it the
Yeah.
Noah?
Mhm.
What's his name? Noah.
I think it's Holly. Holly.
Yeah, yeah. He did like Fargo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not watching that. Is that good?
Again, we're still seeing where it goes. There's things I like a lot about it. There's things in the plot that drive me nuts. But I'm glad it's a thing, and I am enjoying it. But there definitely plot stuff that drives me crazy. And I'm definitely a plot person. Um, so if something in the plot isn't making sense, or someone does something, or like a security system is flawed in some very obvious way, I'm like, I call bullshit on it very quickly. And that there's been a
Yeah.
couple instances of that in this show, which like I think they're just it's a show with a lot of big themes, and I know on the production level is very complicated, so they have a lot to worry about. But they might sometimes they yada yada the plot a little bit. Um,
Yeah, that bothers me too.
but it's definitely, if you're a fan of the Alien series and you just want alien stuff in your life, then it's definitely a good watch.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned about the noise, and this reminded me of like uncut gems for so. And
Yeah.
I've talked to other people about this that like didn't know. Even on here, I think I asked somebody and he didn't notice it. But with uncut gems, I kind of feel like there was a constant like kind of like almost over talking, like you'd have like multiple conversations going on at once. And
Mhm.
I've heard they do that on purpose, the Safdie brothers. And like to me, I liked uncut gems, and it's like one of those things where I really wanted to like it, but I don't think I necessarily liked it as much as everyone else did. Good Time. I don't know if you saw Good Time with Robert Pattinson, the one before Uncut Gems.
No, I haven't seen that one.
It
But
was
I saw
similar
Gut
where
Gems.
I mean it was just really crazy. I guess they would probably be maybe the closest to David Lynch at this point. Maybe we brought up who's doing that now. But it was what do you think about Uncut Gems? And then also their newer one with The Rock looks pretty interesting. The
Yeah,
Smashing Machine. That
yeah,
looks like more like normal, but I've heard that it's supposed to be pretty crazy. But like the trailers are making it look normal,
yeah. I appreciate Uncut Gems because I think it was supposed to give you high anxiety, and it definitely achieved
which
that.
it did. But it was almost like annoying at times. You know what I mean?
Well, again, there's that line but that's gonna be different for each person. So
Yeah,
it's in that wheelhouse of movies that I appreciate and maybe even like to a degree, but I don't think I ever want to see again.
yeah,
And I think I was gonna say that about some of the, again, going back to some of the extreme movies. Like there's a French movie called Martyrs, and it is very disturbing, very unnerving on many different levels. But it's also but somehow they find artistic way to like justify is a strong word, but to make it serve the purpose of the movie in a very interesting way, and I really appreciate that. But I'm also like, that's great, but I don't want to watch this again. So I always say that that's my favorite movie I never want to see again.
What happens? It's a horror movie. What happens in it?
I mean, this is kind of spoilers, but essentially, there's this group, this society. It takes place in France, and there's a society where these people are kidnapping children, or young women, and torturing them to kind of recreate a martyr and put them in a state of ecstasy to find out the secrets of life and death.
That's interesting, kind of confusing. Like I don't really understand. I don't
So
really
like,
know.
so
But
they're basically saying like in someone under extreme duress, like extreme torture, they get to a state where their soul transcends their body, and they're like halfway into like the afterlife or whatever spirituality. So they're trying to create the circumstances in which that will happen, in order so they can get the secrets of life and death to them for themselves. That's
okay,
that that's a very, very simplistic explanation.
yeah, it kind of reminds me of the OA and where I wanted the. I don't know if you saw the OA at
I haven't
all.
seen that.
It's an interesting one, and so like it's. I mean, it's really hard to like even explain, but basically the vibe that I got that they were going for was like this girl dies and then she comes back to life, or I guess she comes back to life, and then there's a group of people that happens to, like where they'll die and then come back to life, like, and this kind of like evil doctor is doing kind of like experiments on these types of people, and I like the first season I think he's doing experiments to try and figure out like what happens, just like that movie, like what happens when you die. But then I thought they were kind of going to go in that direction, but the second season goes even crazier, where it's like they kind of go into like I mean, I don't even really know how to describe the second season, but I think the idea of doing a movie like that would be interesting, and it sounds like Martyrs. That's what they're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm recently rewatching The Walking Dead, and I was kind of surprised because the first time that I watched it, I got to about the third or fourth season, and I kind of just got over it. I think that maybe it was like, this is too shitty for me to watch or whatever. But like rewatching it, I've actually gotten up to like the eighth or ninth episode or season, and I was pretty into it. Only until recently have I kind of gotten over it after I guess about the ninth season. So I'm like, that's pretty damn good. 8 seasons up until like the Negan point. I don't know. I'm assuming you watched The Walking Dead, right?
To a point, I can't remember exactly when I watched, but it just became a little melodramatic. But I appreciate it, and I read the comics. Well, they came out with the omnibus, which is like these huge thick books of all the comics put together. Um, so I read like the first and second one of those, so I could like read through the comics and get that extra context of stuff. So, um, yeah, I enjoyed it. Again, I'll never be mad at someone for liking something, or being their thing, unless it's something really you know offensive. I don't say those words, but um, so yeah, sure. If it gets people into horror, then I'm happy for them.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong. Like I said in the beginning, like I'm more into like high art stuff, but I was kind of surprised at how well it kind of at least kept my attention. And me and my
Mhm.
fiance have been watching it, so it gives us something to like watch at the end of the night, which is fun. It's not like amazing or anything, but and from what I read about the comic books, I kind of thought that their storyline was better than what the TV show was, where Carl supposedly lives. I don't really want to give any spoilers, but basically in the
Yeah,
comic books, Carl ends up living,
right.
and some of the decisions they probably made in the TV show, I kind of was like, I
Well,
don't really like the way who they killed off or like the way they're going with this, and yeah,
I think, yeah, especially in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I think there's this Game of Thrones effect where they're like, we're gonna kill someone that you love on the show in a very shocking fashion to like really break your heart. And yeah, okay, fine, you can do that once or twice in the series, but I feel like it became such a trope that became like every season almost, or if not multiple times a season, we're gonna take a character you love and just brutalize them or something. And I think Walking Dead went to that well one too many times where I was like, okay. I don't I mean, it's been a while, so I don't remember exactly who or what and stuff. But then so
Yeah, you're right. I think they took it too far. They killed off too many people that were too likable of characters and like I don't really know exactly who stayed or survived in the comic books, but
well, and obviously people are gonna die in a zombie series. I'm not saying that. But it just felt like it felt like kind of like the makers were doing it to be cruel, to mess with us, and like in that it was I felt like it was more like audience torture in a way.
yeah. And the thing is that they had to think about when they do that is it's like, yeah, like you're getting that death in and everyone's gonna be like, oh shit, I can't believe that guy died. But now moving forward, you're not gonna have that character in. And I
Mhm.
did I did feel like Game of Thrones, I think that they probably, even though sometimes you're like, oh, I wish that guy didn't die. Like they did do a pretty good job at it, but with Walking Dead, it almost seemed kind of like they cut off their own hand by doing that. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
kind of like, okay, now you don't have this guy. And not only that, but like they kind of the people that they chose to live were ones that like just weren't that interesting or like likable characters. It was like they almost the ones they chose to live were almost like the worst characters. It's almost like they're like um extras or something, like people you just wouldn't think would be like leads in a show.
Well, yeah, a lot of it probably comes to budget. So like, okay, we have this popular character, that person's demanding too much money, so let's just kill them off and like promote this side character to be like a more prominent person because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
There's
And
the
I
whole
don't
economic side of things too.
like I don't really want to give too many spoilers, but I'm at a point now where like the main character, as you know, Rick, has just pretty much gone missing.
Right.
And it's kind of like nobody knows what, and that whole plot didn't make sense. Like how he went missing just didn't make sense. Um, and then Maggie has been gone too, and it's like we just don't really know exactly what's going on. So it's kind of like now you have all these like random characters that they've added that just aren't great characters. And I don't really don't know what happened. I don't know if like Rick just wanted to take a and Maggie wanted to take a break, or like you said, there was too much money, so like we're just gonna cut you out of the season or something.
Probably,
But
yeah, probably a bit of both. Where he's just like, okay, I've been sweaty and yelling, Carl, and in the Atlanta heat. I need a break, and they probably don't want to pay him. And they were going to do like a movie at some point, and then they said they're going to do like a mini series, and but I don't know if that's still happening or whatnot. So, um, yeah.
I know there's been talk about them doing another. I think they're about to release like another spinoff. There's already three spinoffs.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, they did actually. I think they did do a spinoff with Rick recently.
They did do, yeah. There's one with Rick and Michonne. There's one with
Michelle, yeah,
Daryl and Carol, and then there's one with Negan and Maggie, which is weird because
yeah,
I don't know if you know what
yeah. I know.
happens.
I
Yeah,
know the broad strokes. Again, it's just
yeah,
I only have so much time and energy and attention to put into something, so I kind of have to pick and choose.
yeah. And I heard that Frank, I don't know if you know who Frank Darabont is, but
Oh
he's
yeah.
the guy. Yeah. So he supposedly, or he did do the first season.
Hmm.
And the first season, if you remember, was like really good. And I think that he had a plan for it, but supposedly he got cut out
Hmm.
because of, I don't really know what. You
I think
might
a
know
lot
more
of
than me.
AMC is notoriously frugal, to say the least. So, and they're not afraid to, cut people out to fit their budgetary needs. So I think unfortunately, it comes where, art, entertainment, and economic realities kind of clash. I
Yeah.
think that's why like Mad Men did so well there because it's a pretty low. I mean, yeah, they need like period costumes, but once you get enough of those, you can recycle them. So it's a very cheap show to make.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy that like during that period of time, you had Mad
Mhm.
Men, Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, and I think that's it, right? All on
Yeah.
AMC. Three, I mean, three of like literally, I mean, Walking Dead's like not one of the best shows, but it's like definitely watchable for a
I mean,
while.
in the horror genre, I mean, that's probably one. It's definitely up there.
It is really. I mean, what else
But
do you have in terms of TV shows? You don't have much, right? In
mhm.
the horror genre. Can you think of other ones that are as
um, it kind of depends. It gets a little muddled. Um, like American Horror Story it wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but I know that was very popular for a lot of people.
yeah.
Um, we have the Creepshow series. You know, it depends on how far you go back when we count Tales from the Crypt. So there's a lot of different ways. Again, horror is obviously supposed to be scary. That's a hard thing to do on a week in, week out basis. Buffy is probably up there. Again, how much you want to count that. Chilling Tales of Sabrina, Wednesday. I love the first season of Wednesday, and I'm watching the second season with my daughter. Again, I don't know how much of it is watching it with her is making me really enjoy it. If I watch it on its own, I'd probably get a little bored after a while. It's another thing with a lot of streaming series. I feel like they all want like 8 seasons or sorry 8 episodes a season or 10 episodes a season, and at some point they kind of can't quite keep that level of writing or they're like that much plot. So like I love Yellow Jackets if you've watched that. I really enjoy that. But again, I always find there's like usually around the midpoint of the season, I'm like, okay, just move on with it. They're kind of like filling in too much. There's too much filler to stretch things out to the mandated length.
Yeah, all the ones you've named, um, I would say are good, but to be honest with you, I haven't seen most of them. I know my fiance is into most all of those, but they're just not the same as The Walking Dead in terms of just like gruesome, just I mean, Walking Dead got pretty fucking gruesome. And
Mhm.
like Wednesday or you know what I mean, any of these other ones, Yellow Jackets. The Yellow Jackets gets pretty gruesome, but
Yeah.
I mean just straight up horror, like violent horror. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like there's not
okay.
too many.
There's violent horror, and then there's there's all kinds of different.
Well, not violent horror, but you know what I mean? Like where they're like literally just every episode just like fucking chaos, like
Mhm.
killing killing people, killing
I mean, there's
walkers
also
or
like there's the Interview with the Vampire series, which I've always wanted to check out, but again, I just haven't had the time to watch a whole series.
I
I'm
haven't
ve-
seen that.
I'm very curious because they're filming right now this new Jason series, um, which is kind of a prequel, and I'm very curious. I definitely want to
Is
watch.
that a series? I heard they're doing something with Jason. I didn't know it was a series. I thought it was
Yeah,
gonna
so
be like a movie.
there's a whole Jason like universe that they're working on, like multimedia universe. And the thing that they're actively working on right now is kind of like how they did that Psycho series, where it's kind of like leading up to the events of the original Psycho. So it's kind of like that. So it's like Jason's mother,
Like
uh,
Bates Motel.
Bates Motel. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a little more in the vein of that. Oh, there's something else about to come out. Oh, there's like the new Welcome to Derry series,
Yeah.
which I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of a little over that. I didn't love it part two. I always find the parts with the kids are much more better and interesting. But everyone's gonna be talking about, it, so I'll probably watch it. To be kind of part of that. Like, and then we have the new Stranger Things coming out, which again, I'm kind of over Stranger Things a little bit to a degree. I think again it got a little bloated, but it's gonna be such a big thing. I want to keep up with it just to finish it out.
Yeah, I watched the first season of Stranger Things and I actually liked it, even though I didn't think I would. And then for whatever reason, I just couldn't get past the first season. I thought the first season was well done, but like you said, I think maybe it just got like too bloated and weird and really kind of gets to a point where like it just doesn't even really make sense to me, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, so going, I guess like since we're coming to like an end here, we kind of started with talking about movies that are out or have been out recently that you're into, movies you're looking forward to, or even TV shows. I haven't seen any of like I've heard about the Apple TV Plus ones, or even like the Prime one with Walton Goggins, Fallout.
Oh,
I've heard
Fallout.
of
Yeah,
like
I liked Fallout. That was fun.
I haven't really watched any of them, but anything that you're into. I also was curious of what you thought about weapons. Um, Yeah, one thing I want to say really too quick too with David Lynch type stuff is like I'm into like that weird and The Walking Dead kind of did this, or the TV show Lost did this, where
Mhm.
like it. like Lost honestly kind of got to a point where it reminded me a little bit of like David Lynch and even some of The Walking Dead, where it gets so weird and so kind of goofy and like that it feels like a dream kind of, or like surrealism, I guess would be the word, where you're just kind
Mhm.
of like it almost gets to a point where it's like funny, you know what I mean? Like where it's like it's not really making sense, but it's like, but I don't really feel like too many TV shows or movies have done a really, I mean, honestly, I would say Lost might be the best one, or Walking Dead, when it comes to like that weird surrealism. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can think of any other ones. I've heard Shaun of the
What?
Dead is good, making like the satire on
Yeah,
zombies
I
and
love
shit.
Shaun of the Dead. That's a great movie.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one either.
Oh, you never seen Shaun of the Dead? Okay,
No.
yeah, go watch that. That's a really really good movie.
Yeah.
There's another movie that came out, I think it was last year, called Strange Darling. That
Yeah, I saw that. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. One thing I do want to plug is we also have a Patreon where we also do like more mini reviews, like 15, 20, 30 minute more quick hits. So we've done movies that we don't have time to do like a full on review of. We do those for our Patreon. So we did one for Weapons, which I liked a lot. It just came on digital, so I want to watch it a second time to kind of recalibrate a little bit. There's things that annoyed me, but overall, I think it's really well made. They're really good. I don't think it's as good as Barbarian. And also I don't love the main actress. I think it's Julia Garner. Something about her, she doesn't, she's always like one note, it feels, with a lot of her characters, kind of like stuck in like one mode.
Yeah.
But
What's funny about her is I didn't like her. I didn't like her in Ozark. She annoyed me in Ozark, and she annoyed me in pretty much everything. But for whatever reason in this movie, I felt like her character fit that role. Like she's
yeah,
really good at playing that exact annoying character, and it fit, I felt like. But
yeah.
I don't know if it was her or just the writing, but
No, I do think she's well cast for that part.
yeah.
Um and my biggest complaint of that movie is the narration, especially at the beginning, which was not needed whatsoever. And anytime a movie starts with "this is a true story," I'm like, come on, this isn't like 1974 watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People know that whenever they say that, it's not true. And if it
Yeah, which
was,
seems kind of weird that you would say that when it's not true. Yeah.
well, and what's so obvious, like if this did happen, this would be a national, worldwide phenomenon thing.
Yeah.
If this was a real thing. Now, not to give spoilers, you can infer some things from the way the movie plans out that would explain why no one outside this town knows what's happening or what happened. Sure, but it always just sets me like okay, movie, what are you doing with that? Why? And they did confirm that the voiceovers were at the beginning and the end were added after the fact. So those weren't even supposed to be part of the movie, and I think based on test audiences, they added that. So that's always
What do you mean the voiceovers? Sorry, I missed the last part that you said.
So
Just right before this.
there's a voiceover or narration at the very beginning of the movie where she's
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is a true story. At the end, there's like the one that talks about kind of a little bit of the aftermath. Those weren't in the original movie.
Oh, okay.
So they test screened the movie, they got feedback, and they said, okay, we need to add a little something here. And the
Okay.
one at the end, okay, fine, but the one at the beginning, I didn't like, and that kind of
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And not only that, but that character's not even in the movie,
yeah,
right?
we don't
That
know,
that
yeah, it
we don't
didn't
know
really
who
make
that
any
is. It's just some
sense.
random girl. And then the end, I kind of like that where it was like that voice, and then he's walking with his kid, and then it just ends. I kind of like that.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I know they're doing it on purpose, obviously, but I kind of feel like it's a little bit of like a what's the word? Like an easy out. But
Yeah. At the end,
obviously, yeah.
at the end, it made sense, but in the that one made more sense than the one to start the movie.
Yeah.
The movie that I love the most so far this year, is Companion. I keep plugging that movie. I love that movie so much. It's the perfect example of just very good writing where everything is well thought out, makes sense, and comes back and has a purpose. Very economic.
With the girl from Yellow Jackets, right?
Yeah,
She's like
Sophie
the
Thatcher. Yeah,
AI companion.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I even knew the twist going into it, at least that part of the twist. It
Yeah.
didn't bother me, which is a very good sign. When a movie solely hinges on a twist, that isn't usually a good thing because that means the second time you're gonna watch it, you're gonna see it kind of falls apart. But if they're able to make the movie that has a twist, but it's more than that twist, where it's like they're able to write it as a broader theme and broader context, that's when the movie's really successful to me. Um,
Yeah.
so I really enjoyed that. The movie I'm really looking forward to right now is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Really excited. So I'm a big Frankenstein fan.
Yeah. And there's also going to be a Bride of Frankenstein, right? With Maggie Gyllenhaal directing.
Yeah, I think that's coming out this sometime next year, or maybe
When
very.
is the Del Toro one coming out? The end of this year?
I think it comes out in theaters in October and then Netflix in November.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that I'm looking forward to. What do you think about the Apple TV Plus kind of like Foundation? They have like I haven't watched any of them, but Foundation or like the Alien, the what's that one called? The Alien one. Like where I'm assuming Invasion. I think. Have you watched
Yeah,
that one?
I haven't. I don't have it. I don't have Apple Plus or Apple TV, whatever. I do want to watch the Foundation series because I read the books when I was a kid, and always been a big fan of those. I've heard it's pretty good. So at some point, I do want to watch those, but I haven't seen anything else directly on Apple TV except for Ted Lasso.
And yeah. So going back to Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, and even this guy, I'm forgetting his name, Weapons director.
Kreger,
What was that?
Kreger.
Krieger, yeah, exactly. And he's supposed to do Resident Evil.
Yeah, which I thought would have been cool if they would have made Weapons as like a backdoor Resident Evil movie. Like we at the very end we find out it was actually all caused by the Umbrella Corporation.
Oh yeah. Are you a fan of the original Resident Evil? I remember those ones scaring me when I saw them originally. I don't know if they would
Uh,
now, but
I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched a Resident Evil movie all the way through. Like it's one of those things you just catch on cable, bits and pieces. So like I feel like I've seen most of them, at least the earlier ones, like in pieces stitched together, like over time. But I haven't actually sat down and watched any of them. And I've only ever played Resident Evil 4, which obviously is the one that gets the most hype, but I haven't sat down and played any of the other ones.
yeah. I mean, one thing that impressed me about Weapons, and I don't feel like this happens very often, and I don't even think that it ultimately happened with Weapons, but it kind of like while I was watching it, I remember how he did the different stories and then like
Hmm.
laid it all out. I remember being kind of like, okay, this is like good, and it's like I felt like he was in a sense like one step ahead kind of thing
Yeah.
with you know what I mean, and it was like he's smarter than the audience, and it's like I don't see a lot of movies or TV shows that like that actually surprise me anymore, where you're like, oh wow, like this is like I can tell the director is smarter or the writer is smarter than me.
Yeah. He's very
Um,
good at that.
yeah, but like with him, Ari Aster, Robert Eggers. What do you think it is that sets? I mean, because to be honest, with you, I liked Hereditary when I first saw it. Same thing with Midsommar, but Ari Aster's obviously kind of gotten this hype, and same with all Robert Eggers and this guy. Kreger's supposed to be making like 20 to 40 million or whatever for his next movie. What do you think it is that sets them apart as directors? Do you think that it's that, or do you think it's just attention to detail, or what do you think it is that like makes their movies so much better?
Yeah. I mean, I would add in like Oz Perkins and Jordan Peele to that pack.
I agree. Yeah,
If
I
I
like
knew
us.
if I
Yeah.
knew the reason or how they did it, I wouldn't be on the podcast. I'd be out there doing it. But I do think part of it is they're not true fans, but they're very much fans of the genre, so they understand what makes it work, what makes it doesn't work. And I do think they've been able to find ways to make movies that are about something more than just like, oh, I'm trying to scare you. Um, without being too much. Like, it's funny because the Smile movies, like the first one, I thought was just like a bit too much, where it's like grief is the monster, yada yada yada. I was like, okay, to the point of like a parody. Um, so I feel like, and I like that. I think that's very much the A24ification of things, where like there's a horror, but the horror is really a stand-in for something else. Which is fine, but then it can also be a bit too much if you push it too far, or if you're using the same like, okay, grief monster thing. But then like the second Smile I love because it's just kind of like, okay, we have this thing and we're gonna kind of take into this world of like surrealism and pop star, which I really thought was really fun and and they also just had an amazing actress who like really, really threw herself into the role. So it's one of the times where I definitely thought the sequel was better than the original.
Who was the actress in that one?
Is it Naomi Scott? I always forget. Uh,
Did you see that one with the girl from like Cuckoo or whatever with Euphoria? Like the
I haven't sat down and watched it, but I know what you're talking about. Cuckoo,
yeah, I saw that one. I don't even really know what ended up happening with that one, but
Naomi Scott. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So lastly, in terms of your podcast, are you guys pretty serious about it? Like, do you want it to go somewhere? Are you just doing it for fun with your friends, or what's the?
I think. I mean, uh, I've always said that we'll just keep doing it until we're not having fun anymore. So we're definitely doing it for fun, and we enjoy talking about movies, and living in the LA area, I do, I get occasionally get to go and do some cool stuff. So if it gives me a little bit of access, I'm happy and grateful for that to do some cool stuff. But mostly I'm doing it, we don't have a huge following by any means. We're not making we're not making any money off of this. But I'm just
You do
doing
have
it.
a Patreon though, right? So
I
that's
mean,
cool.
yeah, but trust me, for the expenses of making the podcast far outweigh what we make on the Patreon.
Yeah.
And that's more just to I think Patreon is just kind of an extension of giving access and giving back to your listeners. Well, and they also get a chance to support you, as much as they're able to. So it's kind of a balance between those two things. So I'm happy to put out extra content. And I get to do really fun interviews, which I'm really, really happy for. We did one with Alec Gillis, who, designed the Graboid in Tremors and worked on most of the Alien movies and worked on the original Mortal Kombat, all these cool things. Got to do a really fun interview with him, and a lot of other really, really cool people. So those are the things, that, aren't the reason I do it, but are definitely the really, really nice benefits and reason why, definitely one of the reasons to help me keep coming back. But again, I'm doing it because I enjoy, talking about movies with people, especially, my friends.
Yeah. And then so yeah, if you can plug that both the
Mhm.
show and the Patreon, and then also the last question I always ask is any movies, TV shows, music. I've already asked you about movies, but you can throw in more if you want. Music, TV shows, podcasts, books, whatever you're into right now. Just because I'm always looking for stuff to watch or listen to or whatever.
Yeah, so we are our website is dasfromthecrypt.com. We have a pretty good Instagram, if I do say so myself, at Dads from the Crypt. Our Patreon's also under Dads from the Crypt. We have a YouTube channel. We're on all the podcasting platforms. Again, we have some really cool interviews to go check out. Fred Decker, who did Monster Squad, is another recent one. So yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff out there. At least I think it's cool. If other people think it's cool, I appreciate that too. Um, yeah, we already talked about movies, which is mostly what I do. Music, I can't keep track of music, so I just kind of whenever something kind of comes on my radar, I just kind of pick that up and run with it for a while. Um, I always say to check out our friends at, other podcasts, Film at First Sights, Plug It Up, Bloody Good Horror. I'm sure a bunch more I'm forgetting right now. Um, but yeah, the podcasting is an interesting space because the best way I've heard describe it how it is, it's kind of like how, starting a garage band with your friends in the 60s, 70s, 80s into the 90s used to be like, a bunch of guys just picking up guitars and drums and just banging on them to make whatever sound they could until, some of them turned out to be really good and some of them just do it for the fun of it and maybe do a cover band. That's kind of what podcasting really is now.
That's
Uh,
how I feel. Yeah.
yeah. And that's fine. So, but yeah, I always, whenever I go on a podcast, I always listen to some of it just to see if I like it, see if I like the vibe. So and I always love supporting other people. So that's why usually, we have like 5,000 followers on Instagram, which is definitely, a decent for, a very indie podcast. So whenever a new
Yeah.
podcast comes around and follows up, I always follow them back to kind of help support them too, as much as I can. So yeah, just go out there and be good people.
All right, cool. Thanks for coming on. And if you ever want to come back on, because I know this one was short, let me know. And then, yeah, just send me the links, whatever links you want me to put up there. Otherwise, thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.